Okay, you can start the trailer. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Good evening and a very warm welcome to this final session of third Global Festival of Oneness. Let me begin with a small prayer. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru-Parampara Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavatyapta Dehaya Shri Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. We have been celebrating Adi Shankaracharya Bhagavadpada, his life, works, legacy, and his message to us today, here and now, for the last 1 month. And the festival has received exceptional response both from the audience and from the guests whom we had invited. But everything that has a beginning must come to an end. And on this note, let us begin today's valedictory session with a brief opening remarks by Sri Nagaraj Paturiji, who is the director of Indica Academy and a very distinguished scholar and Vidwan and my colleague. Nagarajji, sir, please share a few opening words on the festival.
Namaste. Vidita Shastra Sudha Jalade Mahitopanishad Kahitartha Nidhe Hridaye Kalaye Vimalam Charanam Bhava Shankara Deshikame Sharanam. Indica Academy had Advaita Academy well before Indica Academy actually started. Our founder, Sri Harikiran Vadlamani Garu, is a disciple of Swami Dayananda Saraswati of Arsha Vidya Gurukula. And that made him a doctrinally knowledgeable scholar of Advaita and also a practitioner of Advaita. And as an entrepreneur, he wanted to start an entrepreneurial activity for Advaita. That's how Advaita Academy started. Now it is expanded into Indica Moksha so that other schools of Vedanta also can get accommodated under the platform. Nitin Sridhar ji is in charge of Indica Moksha, and as part of that Advaita Academy also. And because we started with Advaita and Advaita Academy, we have been focusing on Advaita related activities. And 3 years ago, we started Oneness Festival. This conference on Oneness was conducted on the campus of Chinmaya Vishwavidyapeeth and Chinmaya International Foundation at Veliyanadu in Kerala. Today, I am so glad that again, the key person, the Peetha head of Chinmaya campus on Veliyanadu, Shankara's birthplace in Kerala, Swami Advayananda, is our valedictory speaker today. On that day, the Oneness conference was a roaring success there. And later, we started Oneness festival as a 1 month long festival. And because of the COVID conditions, it has become online conference. And now all over the world, people are getting accustomed to online method of activities. And this online festival, because of our participants being on the two sides of the globe, we are having two sessions, one in the morning, one in the evening, so that what becomes the night for the one side becomes the morning for the other side, and vice versa. And both sides people, actually there is so much dedication among the participants that on both sides, both timings they are participating, both in the morning and in the evening. Enthusiastically people are participating in the discourses. We had panel discussions, we had interviews conducted, we had talks from a contemporary perspective, talks from a traditional perspective, talks from Shastriya perspectives from Shastra scholars, talks from contemporary scholars of Advaita from application point of view, from the contemporary perspective. Today we are so lucky that Swami Advayananda ji is of both types. His topic itself gives a contemporary flavor, but he is a traditional teacher of Shankara Advaita. He has conducted several Adhyayana Adhyapana sessions for Brahma Sutra Bhashya. He has been teaching Brahma Sutra Bhashya, Shankara Bhashya for spiritual seekers. There are courses on Chinmaya Vishwavidyapeetham, Chinmaya International Foundation, year-long course, 6 months long course, and very intense courses are conducted. And Swamiji teaches those intense courses in a very intense way. But he is aware of contemporary problems. That is why he chose the topic, several problems, one solution. Many problems and one solution. So that mix of contemporaneity and traditionality, Shastriya, both are there in Swamiji's own teaching, in his Adhyayana Adhyapana Parampara of Shankara's teachings. And Shankara himself was like that. What is contemporary for us in 21st century was also there for him during his time. He was living in the time of Bauddhas. He was living at a time when many Vedic teachings were at a decline. And he had an environment, he has a contemporary milieu. What he was teaching was not completely new. He was just reviving the Shruti Parampara only. He was just reviving the Vedanta Parampara. Actually, let us note this word, Vedanta. Swami Vivekananda also, whenever he talks about Advaita, he uses the word Vedanta. In his talks also, in Vedanta we say this. Whenever he says in Vedanta we say this, it is Advaita. So by the time Shankara was also speaking, for him what he was doing was revival of Vedanta, not Advaita. The use of Advaita so specifically with reference to Shankara is only a later development, because the other schools have come, like Vishishta Advaita and Advaita came into existence. To distinguish Shankara from them, we are using the word Advaita in reference to Shankara. Otherwise, from his point of view, he was doing Vedanta at that time. And Vedanta as a Shastra, as a Darshana, was not new. Shankara did not create it. Even according to the historical knowledge of Shankara's Adhyayana Adhyapana Parampara, we know that Gaudapada Karikas were already there. And Gaudapada was already talking about only Mandukya Upanishad, which was already there. His Karikas were talking about Mandukya Upanishad in the form of Karikas only. And if you go to Gaudapada also, we know that there is Govinda Bhagavatpada before him. And earlier to him, what happened, all that historically it may not be traceable, but it was all there in the Upanishads. And Upanishads, as we know, are just part of Brahmanas and Aranyakas. Brahmanas and Aranyakas were almost contemporary to Veda mantras, the mantra bhaga of the Veda. They were discussing the mantra bhaga of the Veda as contemporary to that. So that tradition already existed. What existed at the time of Vedas, Veda mantras only, contemporary to Veda mantras in the form of Upanishadic Brahmanas and Upanishadic Aranyakas, was just being continued in some caves or some forest areas or some gurukulas, some vidyasthanas, or some places which were not coming into light at that time. And because of Buddha becoming a very prominent tradition at that time, Shankara thought that there was a need, a timely need for reviving Vedanta and telling people that Purva Mimamsa was not the only available exegesis of the Veda mantras. He wanted to show that there is the other exegesis of Veda mantras also called the Uttara Mimamsa, which is Vedanta. So he was also a highly aware person, socially conscious person. He was aware of his times. He was responding to his times. He was responding to the requirement of Mimamsa being viewed as the only way and Bauddha being only the other way of explaining things. So he wanted to show that similar to Bauddha, there is Vedanta, but different from Mimamsa, but there is a continuity from Mimamsa also. So that nuanced way of looking at things, he revived in a very systematic way. And because of his extraordinary genius and also an extraordinary energy that he had, he covered so much of the corpus of the Vedantic literature that was already available. And he covered so many aspects and he covered so many books. That is why when Nitin Sridhar ji or any other organizer of Oneness Festival wants to organize a festival like this, 1 month is never enough. We get topic after topic, some new aspect, some new way of looking at things. Whenever he gets the requirement of calling speakers, each speaker he just touches, he comes up with some new topic and says, Shankara has said this also. Shankara can be viewed from this perspective also. Actually, if you look at the contemporary philosophy professors of universities who talked about Shankara, or contemporary Western Indologists or Sanskrit scholars or historians of religion who talked about Shankara also, whether they agree with him or do not agree with him also, they get amazed at the amount of vigor and the amount of coverage of areas. So both width and depth and the angles, perspectives that he provides is amazing for any observer of Shankara Bhagavadpada. That is probably why, because we are humans and we think that, oh, that is not possible by me. I would not have been able to do that. We use the word avatar. We say such people are definitely some avatar. Otherwise, how could such things be happening? So I'm very glad that we are given by our Guru-Parampara, starting from Vyasa up to our own Shankara and our own individual gurus. We are given this opportunity of conducting this Oneness Festival. Sri Harikiran Vadlamani Garu, the founder, feels himself to be dhanya to have got this opportunity to conduct. And we have got a team of scholars like Ravi Shankar Gullapalli Garu and Prasad Kaipa Garu and Sanjeev Shelgikar Garu, Anuradha Garu, Bhima Shankar Garu, all these joining Nitin Sridhar Garu in conducting this festival. So this festival is coming to just a conclusion of this year. For the next year, it is going to still wait. This is just the beginning of another festival. Every end of a festival is the beginning of the next festival. So I'm very glad to announce the beginning of the next festival in the end of this festival. And I am so fortunate to have Swamiji, Advayananda ji, who has been in the Adhyapana Parampara as a guru for teaching all the primary texts of Prasthanatraya and Shankara Bhashyas of Prasthanatraya to students for so many years. Such an experienced Shankara scholar and a sadhaka, a guru, to have come to bless our valedictory session of this conference. Pranams Swamiji, pranams again and again. My Sashtanga Namaskara to you. Namaste.
Thank you, Nagaraji, for the excellent introduction to the valedictory session. As Nagaraji highlighted, we are all very fortunate today and blessed today to have Sri Swami Advayananda ji, the President of Chinmaya International Foundation, as the chief guest of this valedictory session. And he will be speaking on the topic Many Problems, One Solution. Thank you again, Swamiji, for immediately agreeing to participate in today's session. Before I leave the floor to you, I just want to provide a brief introduction to Swamiji to all the audience. Um, Swami Advayananda ji began his spiritual journey with Chinmaya mission at a very young age of 18, and inspired by Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda ji, he joined Sandipani Sadhanalaya and was bestowed with Diksha by Puja Gurudev himself in 1992. Later, he was initiated into the Sacred Order of Sannyasa in 2003 by Puja Guruji Swami Tejomananda ji, who is the head of Chinmaya mission. In 1996, Swamiji took charge of spiritual and cultural education at Chinmaya International Residential School, Coimbatore, and guided hundreds of youths in their life. In 2000, Swamiji became the Acharya at the Sandipani Vidya Mandir and conducted Vedanta course in Tamil and English for young monks. Since 2003, Swamiji is at Chinmaya International Foundation, the research wing of Global Chinmaya Mission, and has overseen a significant expansion in the research publications and home study courses. As an accomplished teacher of Vedanta, Swamiji has conducted many Gita and Upanishad Jnana Yajnas. Swamiji has authored and edited several books such as Holy Gita Ready Reference. He has designed a course on advanced Vedanta and has authored many research articles. Most recently, Swamiji has overseen and co-redacted the publication of 2-volume Brahma Sutra Chatusutri Shankara Bhashyam, a profound and student-friendly English translation of Shankaracharya's commentary on Brahma Sutra. He is currently serving as the president of Chinmaya International Foundation. I repeat, we are very fortunate and blessed to have you here, Swamiji, for this valedictory session. Please start your talk.
Hari Om. Am I audible to everybody?
Yes, Swamiji, you're audible.
Yeah. Nitinji, is there a way I can see others also?
Because this is in a webinar format, you won't be able to see. Yeah.
All right.
The Bhim Shankarji and Sanjeevji, you can switch on your videos. Yes,
Yeah,
this is
only this
Sanjeev
many
ji
people
and
you
this
can
is our Bhim Shankar ji.
Yeah.
And we have 43 participants here attending here, but it is getting live streamed also, Swamiji.
All right.
And there is a Facebook live streaming and YouTube live streaming also. They're all there. We do not usually put all the other attendees also in the gallery mode because it is 43 is a big number.
Right.
So,
Right.
Thank you.
Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswati Namaha. Om Shri Guru Namaha. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavadpada Shankaram Lokashankaram Tamasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yatkripa Tamaham Vande Paramanandamadav Paramanandamadav. My loving and respectful salutations to everyone present here. My special regards to Nagarajji, Nitinji, Harikiranji, and everyone who has been so exemplarily, not just beginning great tasks, but also accomplishing great tasks. And I invoke the Lord's grace, Guru's blessings, and the entire Parampara's grace and blessings on all of us. So many problems, one solution. So that is the topic. It looks very surprising if how many problems can have one solution. Problems are of various types, is it not? Have problems at the personal level also. Sometimes health issues are there. Sometimes financial difficulties could be there. There could have been a bereavement also at home, near and the dear. So, there are a lot of personal issues also when we talk of problems. Of course, there are problems also at a global level, at a larger level. So you have problems such as climate problem, like environment, pollution, the variety of problems. And then there are also other problems we come across, which are for some time, which are there for a little duration of time. But there are problems which are there for longer duration of time. So when we think of problems, there is such a vast gamut of problems. And then to think of, many problems and then one solution. It is not, easy. Even in science, they are trying to find out one law which can manage all laws. Even great scientists like Albert Einstein and all were working on that concept to find one theorem, one law by which everything is answered and everything is brought into picture. So this idea of finding one for many is not, what can I say, is not very rare. It is there. It is there. But whether such a thing is there or not is something which we need to think, and then we shall, as we move forward, let us see. And you can see the glory of Advaita Vedanta, and then you should also see the beauty of the thoughts of Sri Adi Shankaracharya. So when we think of problems, even two other words needs to be thought of along with that. One, and that is situation. Of course, you have problem, and then you have another word which is called crisis. So you have all these are the trinity of difficulties: situation, problem, and then crisis. Now, to understand these, let me give a small example. The example is very simple. I'm sure it does not require much thought, but it will help you comprehend what these three mean. Suppose you are hungry, and then when you're hungry, so it is a situation now. What do you do? And if you have something to cook at your home, immediately there is a solution. So that is a situation. Suppose you are hungry and you have nothing at home to cook. Then you have a problem at hand. But of course, you can find solution. How? Because outside restaurants can be there. And then, or you can go to your friend's home. Something is there, and then again you have a solution. That kind of situations for which solutions are gained through some effort and some action, that is called problem. Then you have something called crisis. Let us say you are hungry, but nothing is there at home. Restaurants are also closed. And now you do not know what to do. Now you see, then that is a crisis. So, yeah. A situation is that wherein solution is at hand. A problem is that where a solution is not immediate, but for which you can find a solution with a effort, with a hard work or something you can find. And a crisis is that for which you don't find, in spite of your thinking carefully, any kind of actual solution. Now, today, when you look at the world, you find everything is crisis. Earlier, they used to speak of situation, the situation in, say, Vietnam, or situation they used to speak of. Then later on, it was spoken of as problem. The problem of, the problem of markets collapsing. So you have a problem. Now, if you look, everything is a crisis. Nobody uses the word situation. Nobody uses the word problem. Everything they speak of is crisis. So you have, when you say of crisis, you have the crisis of, the Russia-Ukraine crisis. It's a crisis. The crisis of fuel, that is another crisis. Then in some countries, you have the crisis of debt, in which they have got into a situation of debt and they are not able to come out. Everywhere you look, there is a crisis. Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji, my teacher, when he was addressing the UN, he remarked a very interesting point. He said, you close your eyes, take the globe, close your eyes, and put your finger anywhere on that globe. There you will see there is a crisis. There is no place which is free of crisis. Now, even if you put your hand on the ocean, there also you have the crisis of plastic, the crisis of pollution, water pollution. There is no place which has escaped our situation, wherein the situation has not moved into a problem and the problem has not gone into a crisis. We have what is now universal crisis. Now the question is, when we have such an enormous, vast gamut of difficulties, of problems and crises, how is there something that is one solution for all of them? Is such a thing actually possible? You find one solution and every problem, every difficulty, every crisis comes to a cessation. Now, Vedanta takes up this kind of challenge. The beauty of Vedanta, Advaitic thought, is that it never takes anything and looks at it from a perspective or angle which is very limited. Whatever it takes and looks, it's always an overarching vision. Now, let me just show you some statements or concepts. Now, Vedanta does not look at the Vyashti. We have this concept of Vyashti Samashti. Vyashti is microcosm, which is the individual. Samashti is the total or the macrocosm. So Vedanta, when it refers into, it looks at Vyashti as well as Samashti. Even take that Mahavakya, take every Mahavakya, whether it is Tattvamasi or Ayam Atma Brahma or Aham Brahmasmi or any Mahavakya for that matter, you will see there is a reference to Vyashti as well as Samashti. So Tat is reference to Samashti, macrocosm, and Tvam is reference to Vyashti, the microcosm. And then you have both the understanding is of both of the Vyashti as well as Samashti. In the Kathopanishad, you have this statement, beautiful statement, Yadeveha tadamutra, yadamutra tadanviha. What is there here, meaning what is there in the Vyashti is alone there in the Samashti, total, and what is there in the Samashti, the total, is alone there in the Vyashti. Now, what I mean is that you please see the way Advaita Vedanta looks at a problem, looks at a challenge, is a very comprehensive way. Also, that the idea of going for one to solve the many is very core to Advaita Vedanta. Going for one to solve the many. Look at all the questions of Advaita Vedanta, what you find in the Upanishads. You always have this, what is that one for the many? Kasminnu bhagavo vijñāte sarvamidam vijñātam bhavatiti. Now that is a question of the Mundaka Upanishad, the student's question. Kasminnu bhagavo vijñāte sarvamidam vijñātam bhavatiti. What is that knowing one? You know everything. Now take the Chandogya Upanishad. And there the question is, what is that knowing which? Yena ashrutam shrutam bhavati, amatam matam, avijñātam vijñātam. Look at this here again. What is it saying? What is that knowing which one? What is that knowing one? All that I have not heard of becomes heard. All that which I have not thought of becomes thought of. All that which I have not, known becomes known. Now here again, you see one as answer for many. Even take one more example, let me give you. One or two. Say take Kena Upanishad. In Kena Upanishad again, Kene shitam patati preshitam manaha, Kena prana pratama praiti yuktaha, Kene shitam vacham imam vadanti, chakshushrotram kaudevo yunakti. Now here again you see, what is that one principle which governs the eyes, the ears, the pranas, the mind? Now, what is that one which makes possible everything? So this way of taking one and then understanding the one as the answer for the many, this pursuit, this inquiry is very, very core to Vedanta. And therefore, the question of one solution to all problems is not just important in Vedanta, it is core to Vedanta, and it is the most essential inquiry of Vedanta. Now, all right, so one to many is very core to Vedanta, then what is the answer? Now, to know what is the answer, first what is important is to understand what is the problem. Now, usually you will find when an answer is given in any kind of inquiry, the answer can be either superficial or the answer can be deeper. Any problem is caused by a certain perspective. You have a certain perspective, and from that perspective, when you work or when you do things, you can cause a problem. There can be a problem. Now, to find a solution to that problem is not possible from that very area of that very perspective. You have to go to a higher perspective and find a solution. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, see what I was mentioning? I was mentioning the solution can be either superficial or the solution can be deeper. That is first point. Second point, the problem comes from a certain perspective, the answer cannot come from the same perspective. The answer has to arrive from a higher perspective. Now, if you can keep these two things in mind, and then look at the Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, you have Arjuna, collapsing. It is a well-known, I'm not repeating the context and all, it is well-known to all of us. Arjuna collapsing under the weight of, so to say, his difficulty of handling the situation. It became a problem, and then it became a crisis for Arjuna. How to fight against my own family, my own well-wishers, my own teachers. That way, Arjuna got into that I and my problem. And then Arjuna, when he analyzes what is the cause of his problem, and then finally when he surrenders to Bhagavan Shri Krishna, you see what he says is the problem, and you see what Bhagavan Shri Krishna gives as a solution. It is very interesting. Arjuna says, Karpanya dosho pahata swabhavaha pruchami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha yashreyasyan nishitam bruhitanme shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. This is that verse. What does he say? Arjuna's analysis of his problem. He says, I am afflicted with Karpanya dosha. Now, what is this Karpanya dosha? Karpanya is the word, Karpanya comes the word Kripa. Okay. Kripa means compassion, Kripa means love, Kripa means concern, Kripa means care, all these things. He says, I am afflicted with love and care, and because of which I feel a sense of being lost and hopeless. So this, he says, is the Karpanya dosha. And this is his analysis of his problem. Karpanya dosho, because of that, my nature is not the usual. And then he says, Prichamitvam dharma sammuda chetaha. And I am asking you this question because I am confused about my duty. So look what he says. I have got the fault of my love and concern overpowering me, making me helpless. So Karpanya dosha. And because of which, what is the problem? I am not able to decide what is my duty. And then he says, Yat shreyasyan nishitam bruhitanme. What is Shreya? What is absolutely good for me? You please give a thought and tell me. Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. I am a Shishya, please protect me. Now, Arjuna's question was, I am feeling little helpless because of these feelings. That is one. And second, he says, I am confused on my duty. This is what Arjuna says. Then such a question of Arjuna should necessitate the reply of the nature of Arjuna, you are a soldier. As a soldier, what is your duty? Your duty is to, execute you are in the war. As a soldier, your duty is to fight the war. This is not the answer Bhagavan Shri Krishna gives. What is the answer Bhagavan Shri Krishna gives? Bhagavan just takes Arjuna to a very different level. He gives for Arjuna the wisdom of the nature of the self. Question was what? Question was dharma sammuda chetaha. What is the answer? The answer is not reflecting the question. One may feel so. I mean, the superficial answer, if it is given, what is the answer? This is the answer. You are a soldier, you do your duty. What Bhagavan Shri Krishna gives? Na jayate mriyate va kadachit. Like that, he just talks about the nature of the self. Natve vaham jatu nasam, natvam neme janadipa, nachaiva nabhavishyamaha, sarve vayamatav param. Arjuna, there was no time when I was not there. There's no time you are not there. There was no time all these kings were not there. They were there ever. In this way, Bhagavan gives for Arjuna the Atmavidya. And the entire 18 chapters is what? The entire 18 chapters is an explanation of the self-knowledge. Giving to Arjuna also the performance of duty is a means by which you can purify your mind and gain this self-knowledge. Now, you see, how is the answer being provided? The answer is you take Arjuna to a standpoint where he sees things very differently. He is concerned about the death of his near and dear. He is concerned about causing suffering to whomever, his guru or his teacher and all those things. Now, Bhagavan Shri Krishna takes him to a level where he shows, look, the nature of the self is this. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Now, what is this an answer, or is this something else? This is an answer, but it is not a superficial answer. It is a deeper answer. And once Arjuna gains this kind of clarity about the nature of the self, suddenly the mind is becoming clear and free. The mind which is clouded by sorrow becomes now immediately available. Why? Once he understands that there is no birth, there is no death, it is far higher. The nature of the self is such where it undergoes no change, no modification. It is pure Sat, Chit, Ananda. You and I are one and the same. Now, that way, when Arjuna is given such a knowledge, now his perspective changes. He goes higher. And from that vision of higher, when he looks, what happens? The problem ceases. He gets a right perspective. And from the true perspective, Arjuna is able to handle. And that is how Arjuna is able to. Now, you see, what Bhagavan Shri Krishna did? He gave Atma Vidya, self-knowledge, and then gave the performance of duty as a sadhana to gain that Atma Vidya. You see? Now, what Swamiji, what are you saying? The topic is what? The topic is many problems, one solution. Why are you saying all these things? Now, what I say is that many problems are caused because of one actual true problem. And what is that actual true problem? That actual true problem is ignorance of our real nature. Swamiji, how can you say that is the actual problem? When you solve that problem, all problems are solved. How do you say like that? Now, that is why I brought in the example of Arjuna and Sri Krishna. Arjuna's problem was what? Arjuna's problem was dharma. I don't know what is dharma. And the solution to that was what? You know yourself. Now, Swamiji, how can knowing the self solve the problem of dharma? Because Arjuna, you are not able to do dharma because your mind is clouded by sorrow. And where did sorrow come from? That sorrow came from understanding yourself to be the body. And once you take yourself to be this body, you are a limited individual. And once you take yourself to be a limited individual, you see others as individuals. And once you see others as individuals, then you have this concept of these are mine and these are not mine. Then you get into a problem of likes and dislikes. And then when you get into a problem of likes and dislikes, then your whole attention, your whole understanding is clouded. And the decisions you take, they all go wrong. Why they all go wrong? Because you are clouded. Your personality, your intelligence, your thinking is clouded. It is veiled. You are not able to think clearly. And not thinking clearly causes all kinds of problems. And therefore, if you want to solve problems, you have to correct one thing. What is that? You have to correct your thinking. Thinking should be corrected. When thinking is corrected, when right thinking is there, all problems are solved. Why? Because all problems are created by wrong thinking. When wrong thinking is what creates problem, you have to find a solution to the thinking, not the solution to the problem. The problem is created by what? Problem created by you. Your wrong thinking. Ramaji, my wrong thinking can create my problem. The world problem is not caused by my thinking. Remember, the world is nothing but all of us put together. There is no world other than individuals. Take the individuals away, where is the world? And that is why Vedanta looks at Vyashti and Samashti together. In fact, There are very deeper theories of Vedanta, deeper propositions of Vedanta, where the samashti is put into the vyashti. In such thoughts such as Drishti-Shishti-Vada, or what is also called Ekajiva-Vada, the samashti is nothing but vyashti. It is incorporated within the vyashti. Now, these are very deep thoughts, whereby Vedanta tells you the whole totality that you see is an expression of the individuality. Even if one is not able to rise to that height, at least we can very clearly see that totality is nothing but all individuals put together. And each individuals with their thinking creates problems. I mean, all of us with wrong thinking can create mighty problems for all of us. Suppose there is some dirt or something like that in my room. I take it out and put it in the street. Okay. Now one person has dirtied. Now you also take your dirt and put it in the street. The street becomes more dirty. If the whole street, everybody takes the dirt from their home and puts on the street, will not the street become dirty beyond compare? That is what we all have done. Our own ignorance, because of which wrong thinking, because of which we created a problem. I create a problem. Now you create a problem. She creates a problem. He creates a problem. Everybody creates a problem. How? By wrong thinking. And because of that, we have a mega problem. We have a global problem. We have the problem for all put together. Finally, what is it caused by? It is caused by wrong thinking. That is the only that is the culprit. You catch that culprit. Now, how is wrong thinking? How can wrong thinking be removed? Wrong thinking can only be removed by right thinking. There is no other solution to that. You see? Beautifully, Vedanta would say, Avichara krito bandhaha vicharena nivartate. Avichara krito bandhaha vicharena nivartate. Your problem is created by avichara. Avichara, not right thinking. Avichara. And how is it solved? Vicharena nivartate. By right thinking, it will be resolved. You take the example of, in Adhyasa Bhashya, Bhagavan Shankaracharya makes a beautiful, his statement. Says, Tametam evam lakshanam adhyasam pandita avidya iti manyante. This problem, what you have caused, is what is called as ignorance. This problem of identification, because of which you have all these problems, is called as avidya. And then, Vivekena vastu swarupa avataranam vidyamahuhu. And by viveka, by right clarity, if you can find you can discriminate, you can differentiate and understand the actuality, then that is called as vidya. And then he says, asya anartha hetoho prahanaya. Now this avidya, this ignorance or this avichara, this is what is causing all problems for everybody around the world. Anartha hetoho prahanaya sarve vedantaha arabhyante. All the Upanishads are there. What meant for what? Only for this purpose, is to help you think rightly. And therefore, my dear friends, when you say all problems, so many problems, and then you say one solution, please note one thing: all problems are caused only by one problem. And what is that one problem? The one problem is ignorance of our real nature. And that ignorance of my real nature makes me see you as different from me. And when you are different from me, there is all problems. All problems. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi says something very interesting. Somebody went to Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, when he, and I say went to him means at that time. And at that time means a very, very initial time, even then. Very initial time means what? There are just a very, very few people in the Ramanashram. And then went to Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi. That guest who had come there went to say, here there is a lot of politics. There are a very few people. And the guest goes and tells Bhagavan Ramana, in this ashram there is a lot of politics. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi makes a very beautiful statement. He says, when there is two, there is a problem. When there is two, there is a problem. Dvitiyadvai bhayam bhavati. When there is two, there will be problem. Only when there is one, what Vedanta says, sarvatma bhava, then you'll find everything is solved. Everything is resolved. Why? Because you have the right thinking. And in right thinking, you will find all problems resolved. Individual problems, global problems, every problem will be resolved. There's only one way, and that is right thinking. Okay? And that is what Vedanta provides. That is what Vedanta provides. Now, when you say that is what Vedanta provides that one solution of right thinking, whereby Vedanta shows the whole world is me and me alone. It is this great concept of sarvatma bhava. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaivat bhut vijanataha. Right? Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhut vijanataha. Oh, then the Upanishad goes on to say, Tatra ko mohakka shokaha ekatvam anupashyataha. Where is the problem when you can see only one? Go to that one and then dissolve the plurality. And then let us ask, where is the problem? There is no problem. So we all salute great saints like Bhagavan Shankaracharya, who all through life, just they paid attention to the only problem, which is a problem. All others are only adventitious. They're peripheral. They're superficial. They all arise from the actual problem. And they found that solution to that one problem. Right? How solution to the problem? Thinking, right thinking is the solution. And how do you do the right thinking? The process is what? Process is what? Process is knowledge, gaining the knowledge. And that is why in the Bhagavad Gita, Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitramiha vidyate. There's nothing as purifying as knowledge. One gains this knowledge through Shravana, Manana, Nididhyas. This is the whole Vedantic sadhana. And thus Vedanta is not only a Shastra, but also a yoga. And that is why in Bhagavad Gita, everywhere at the end you'll find Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu, Upanishatsu, Brahma Vidyayam, Yoga Shastre. It's not only that Vidya, it is also a Yoga Shastra. What is yoga? Yoga is that by which you unite. It is a sadhana. So Vedanta is the sadhana also. And Vedanta is the knowledge which finally it gives also. So invoking the grace and blessings of Sri Adi Shankaracharya, for all of us, may we also gain this knowledge and be free and thus become effective, true contributors to society. And as long as we don't have this knowledge, anything we do in the form of a solution, it's only going to create greater problems. Because the solution what you are providing is coming from a perspective of duality. It is going to only cause greater wound, greater problems. But the solution which comes from that knowledge of oneness is an actual solution which will bless the whole world. Right? So one long month, Indica Moksha, as the Global Festival of Oneness, one long month. The purpose is only this, to find that one solution to all problems. To show that light, whereby darkness is not there. Usually people say light removes darkness. When light comes, where is darkness? The absence of darkness is a removal of darkness. Not the destruction of darkness is the removal of darkness. When light is, there is no darkness. When oneness is there, there is no problem at all. So with these few words, I shall conclude with a prayer, and probably if any questions are there or anything anybody would like to share, I'll be happy to take up. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrutyorma Mrutangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Swamiji, for such a enlightening session. I'm sure all of us have greatly benefited from this very short but very insightful lecture. Viewers, if you have any questions, you can type it in the chat box or Q&A box, and I will take it up and ask Swamiji. As we wait for questions, Swamiji, I have one question. You mentioned about the Shreyas in the course of the talk, and the Upanishads mention about Preyas versus Shreyas as two different goals. As and I understand, the Shreyas is the ultimate goal, but for a Grihastha, those most of our audience is the Grihastha audience. So we have lot of different pullings. So how to balance these? We cannot completely ignore the prayers also. So some thoughts on this, some guidance on this.
All right. See, Preyas and Shreyas. One is the path of Preyas is the path of ignorance. Shreyas is the path of knowledge. Okay. And it will say, the Upanishad will say, Duramete, Viparite, Vishuchi, Avidyayacha, Vidyeti Jnata. Like that is the line the Upanishad will say. Duramete, they are both very, very far away. Viparite, they are contradictory. Vishuchi, they are very distinct from each other. That is how it is said there. Now, when you say Preyas and Shreyas, they are one of ignorance and one of knowledge. Now you will say, Swamiji, but then Preyas, when you say Preyas, it is worldly thing. And when you say Shreyas, it is moksha. Now that is where that bridge of Karma Yoga comes. That bridge of Karma Yoga comes. Now, totally entering into a desire-prompted life, egocentric life, where you only work for your ego and egoistic fulfillment. That is called Preyas. Now, Shreyas is what? Shreyas is the wisdom of the self. Right? Now, the bridge is what? The bridge is Karma Yoga, where you are in action, but what have you changed? You have changed that ego and egocentric life, you have changed and made it God-centric and dedicated for a higher goal. Okay. Now, so that's being in world, one is out of the world. In the words of Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Padma Patram Ivam Vasa, like a lotus leaf in water. Now, the lotus leaf in water is in the water, but out of the water. Right? So, the one who is a Grihastha, by just changing his vision means what? Changing from his focus on ego and egocentric life. Now, the same duties that Grihastha does, but the attitude is different. What is the attitude? I am doing it not for my ego. I'm not doing it for my egocentric fulfillment, but I'm doing it for a greater cause. What is the greater cause? God has given me this duty to take care of my family, to take care of my children, to take care of my wife, to take care of my husband. I do it as my worship unto the Lord. Right? So this is the movement from Preyas to Shreyas.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Yeah.
I think we have only one or two questions. I think this question is related to what you just discussed. Someone is asking how to become one, how to attain that knowledge of oneness.
Yeah. So I had at the end, I had mentioned very briefly of the path which is involved, which is Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. Okay. So see, any knowledge first is that you have to have inputs about it. That is, no knowledge just comes like that. It's not something like you slip and then you find this or that. or you stumble upon it. No, knowledge is something what is gained with an effort. So the first effort which is required is what is termed Shravana. Shravana is we gain that knowledge, number one. We gain that information about that knowledge. We gain that information means what? This is the nature of the self. This is the nature of the world. This is that. This is the Lord. What is the connection between the self, the world? This way one gains the inputs. That is called Shravana. Next, what one does is that just because one has gained inputs, it doesn't mean one has digested that. Then one takes the effort of digesting that. What does the cow do? The first cow or, all these animals, what do? They eat. First, they take it to the mouth. Then they chew it. They cud. They do it. They start chewing it. Now, in the same way, one gains the knowledge and then one reflects upon it. That is called manana, whereby you see the knowledge integrating with you. It becomes clear with you. That is called manana. And third one is what? Third is after you reflect also, you abide in that knowledge, right? You stay focused and single point in that knowledge so that any kind of wrong notions what you had before, they're all taken away. This is called nididhyasana or dhyana or meditation. So this way, this is the process. So when you say, how do you do it? There are, you take up the study of Vedanta. Yeah. Swamiji, how do I take up the study of Vedanta? Plenty of ways available, especially in this modern time. In our institution also, Chinmaya International Foundation, we have a slew of courses which Nagarajji was referring to. See, even if you can't go and meet a guru or gain knowledge like that, there are ways available in this present age and times. Right? Make the best of it. And as you start, you will find it becomes more and more easier, clearer, and the path becomes more and more clear. See, when we don't put our first leg, it looks very far and distant. But you start, as a Chinese proverb says beautifully, a journey of 1,000 miles. I think Japanese or Chinese, I don't know. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. First, you take that step. Okay. And then you see how it moves. It will happen. But sitting in the chair and then saying, now what can I do about it, will not work. Sitting in the chair, okay, but open a book and read. Then it starts acting. Yeah. It's not difficult as it looks like. It's not at all difficult. So many people have walked, and you too will walk. You just have to put that effort. Just find out something what you can study, and that will make all the difference. Yeah.
Thank you, Swamiji. We have one more question. The final question we have received. What is more important? Sadhana Chatushtayam before Shravana Manana Vyasa? I'm not sure. I think they are asking whether Sadhana Chatushtaya is important before Shravana Manana, etc.
Can you read out exactly what the person has written?
Yes. The exact question is, what is the importance of, I think one off is missing here. What is the importance of Sadhana Chatushtaya before Shravana Manana Nididhyasa?
Okay. See, if you have Sadhana Chatushtaya fully, that Shravana Manana Nididhyasana will give you Aparoksha Jnana. I'm using these words straight away because I think you may have some idea of it. If you have Sadhana Chatushtaya full, Shravana Manana Nididhyasana will lead to Aparoksha Jnana. If you don't have Sadhana Chatushtaya in full, Shravana Manana will lead to Paroksha Jnana and a little more of Karma Yoga you take up, so that Chitta Shuddhi becomes possible. Along with your Shravana Manana, you maintain your Karma Yoga, Chitta Shuddhi happens, and then strongly go into Nididhyasana, and then Aparoksha Jnana happens. The only difference is that when Sadhana Chatushtaya is there, Shravana Manana Nididhyasana immediately gives rise to Aparoksha Jnana. If Sadhana Chatushtaya is less, you will have to support it, buttress it with Karma Yoga and Upasana. And Karma Yoga and Upasana along with Vedanta you do, then things will become better and better. And then Aparoksha Jnana will be there. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Swamiji, for the wonderful talk and wonderful post-talk responses to the queries we had. I don't see any more question. Yeah, I don't see any more questions. And again, thank you for taking the time from your very busy schedule and sharing these blessing all of us with these very insightful, very reflective thoughts. And I'm sure all of our audience and I personally we have learned so many things. We have received so many things to reflect upon in the coming days. Thank you very much, Swami.
And my special congratulations to Indica Academy, exemplary work, invoking the Lord's grace and Guru's blessings for more and more wonderful work to happen in the future. Thank you, Hari.
Thank you very much, Swami.
Hari. Thank you, Hari.
Viewers, as we come to a conclusion of this valedictory session, as well as this year's festival, let me end with a vote of thanks. The festival would not have been possible without the support of a large number of people who contributed directly or indirectly in many ways for its success. First, I would like to thank my fellow hosts, Anuradha ji, Soumya ji, Bhima Shankar ji, and others who delightedly hosted the session throughout the month. I want to thank all the members of the Advaita Academy's advisory board, including Sri Nagaraj Paturi ji, Sri Ravi Shankar Gundlapalli ji, Sri Prasad Kaipa ji, Sri Sanjeev Shelgikar ji, Srimati Vijayalakshmi ji, and others who have supported the festival in numerous ways, including hosting many of the sessions, and with their comments, feedback, and many other ways they have supported the festival. And of course, I want to thank my colleagues, Sri Koti Ram Prasad and Sri Srinivas Vadde, who have handled the back end and provided technical support. And I thank Sri Harikiran Vandamani, the founder of Indica Moksha Advaita Academy and my mentor, without whose vision and active support, Advaita Academy would not have come this far at all to begin with. And my Sashtanga pranams to Swami Advayananda, to all the gurus, Acharyas, teachers, and other speakers and other guests who have all agreed to participate in this festival and who have shared over the last 30 days, shared their teachings, their insights, and very insightful perspectives on various aspects of Vedanta, on the lives and teachings and legacies of Bhagavadpada Shankaracharya. And last but not the least, I thank all the audience who have enthusiastically joined this celebration of Adi Shankaracharya. I know that many of you have joined throughout the festival for all the 30 days, both morning and evening sessions. And this enthusiasm, this dedication is the driving force which has kept us keep doing this festival year after year. So I thank one and all who has been associated in one way or the other with this festival. With this, I conclude the session. Shri Guru Bhyo Namah.